Hey everybody, what up? Scuff D here, and just gearing up, ready for the Wolves. They're only a day away. I think we are approaching the 0 hour. Let's take a quick look because in 1 day and 8 hours, 32 hours left. Space Wolves will be here, so I'm psyched. I'm pumped. But what I'm doing tonight, I realized is kind of one thing I haven't talked about. I kind of vaguely mentioned it, but I haven't really done a recruit level video or kind of just a tips video regarding the challenges. Now, the challenges are something that was added to the game, gosh, I believe about 2 months ago. It might have been a little bit longer than that. It was when the gold economy changed, so it might have been 3 months ago. The challenges are various. They run all over the place. You see them every day. They reset every day. They're once per day. They're not something that you haven't seen. If you're playing the game, you have access to them. I don't believe that they're locked or anything, and they don't require a certain level to be able to challenge yourself. However, some of them are harder to do, especially as a newer player. They range from all over. Like for this one instance here is use your warlord ability a number of times in a single match. And then there are others that are like, win the game with 1 health left for the max crate, or win the game with 30 health left, which that's pretty hard to do. Win the game with 4 turns or in 4 turns. And then there are some that are cumulative in the course of, like play 50 troops that cost 2E. Some challenges have play 50 troops that cost 2E in one game. I don't know if 50, it might be 30. They run the gamut. I've seen some that are, play X amount of troops with backlash, X amount of troops with relentless. I haven't seen anything with survivor or sacrifice. Damage the opponent's warlord. Use your warlord to attack. Don't use your warlord to attack. Don't use your warlord at all. Use your warlord's ability. They all offer just different ways to play the game, and if you're a newer player, you kind of want to aim to get those challenges for the simple fact that that's a free crate, and so long as you meet one of those levels, you're going to get the crate for that challenge. You're going to get a crate. And obviously the max level gets you a green crate, and that's a rare, maybe a 2 rares depending, and some gold. And in the game as it is shaped up currently, free gold is nothing to be scoffed at. You can get a ticket from that as well. Sometimes you get gems. It's just like you would get a green crate from an event run. So you have the same chance to get that every day. Now, what I want to talk about, to kind of go along with challenges, because if you play, like I said, if you're playing the game, you've seen the challenges, and maybe some of them you can do. Some of them are easier than others, and some of them you just get frustrated looking at because you're not ready, or it just is too hard for that challenge. And there are some for me. I think the biggest ones that I don't spend as much effort on, just because I don't have anger on. So the win with by attacking your warlord X amount of times with your warlord, or win with low health. If I make those, I make those. If I don't, I'm not going to spend much time on them. But most of the other challenges are fairly doable. There are some cards and some warlords that are ideal or better, I've found, than others. And I actually, we were talking about I was talking about this with somebody on Discord today. Do I really use all these decks? Yes, I do. And I wish I had more deck slots, because some of these decks right now are just the challenge build and not the normal build that I would like to play. So if I ever want to play a deck, I always have to sub out cards from what they are. Ornitov is a prime example. I've got this Ornitov is what I use for playing the 8-drop or higher troops, either in a single game or just through the course of however many times you have to play it. And I just load him up. Number one, he starts with an extra energy, although now that there's Thaddeus Fail starting with extra energy, you could argue that I could use Fail for that, but I'm just traditionally been using Oratov. I use 2 asteroids belts, and I actually got a second asteroids belt for the purpose of this challenge. I think asteroids belt is a good card, and there are some decks that run 2 of them, but if you're having difficulty reaching this challenge and you've got the gems to spend and you want to reach it whenever it shows up in your game, a second asteroids belt with Ornithop makes it very easy. Underground Fort reduces the cost, and then the abandoned supplies also to reduce the cost. Now, if cards are reduced in cost, they still count towards the challenge. There are some challenges that you've got to read the wording on that are play a troop, and then there are some that are put in play or destroy, or I think put in play. And there's a difference between a troop that is summoned by an ability or a relentless effect, such as the Farron's Militia, and then there are some that don't count if they're brought into play by Latara Saren. And I think they've changed that, and Latara Saren's does work now, but there are some challenges where the Farron's Militia won't. So reducing the cost doesn't negate them from the challenge, but it makes it easier to play these and begin to stack these. And so I've got this Ornithop build. I don't have my normal Ornithop build. I've got another Warlord, and there are several. Like I said, you could use Thaddeus Fail for this. You could probably use the same build and then just pick a Warlord that can reduce the cost of something, if that ever happens to be a Warlord, or something that kind of signals to your opponent that you're doing a challenge, something outside the norm. For the Warlord challenge, that is, use your Warlord ability, or don't deploy any troops, or don't or play X amount of tactics. I use Captured Mandragorax. That's like 3 different challenges that this build is able to do, and I usually have to sub out the 4 troops I have in it if it's a play X amount of tactics or play no troops, especially the Ornithop's Barge, because that counts as troops to the challenge. But it's just a very consistent, currently just an easy way to just draw cards, play cards. They're counting for the challenge. He just works. To kind of go with that, Lictitio Divinatus is a great card for challenges. It's a rare, it's affordable, it's a good card in general. Not great because it gives your opponent card, but I mean, in terms of drawing up cards in your hand that you're trying to do something with, or if you have to play X amount of cards, it's not a bad thing to have. In this instance, I've swapped out Lictitio for Void Engagement. I think that's just the next evolution for Mandragorax currently. But this is just kind of a hybrid between a couple different challenge variants. And like I said, I'll just have to swap out 4 troops occasionally from time to time if that's what I'm running for that. There are some that are like for I think there's only one that is do not use when not using your Warlord. Like, you can't use his ability, you can't attack with him, your Warlord has to sit there, which means you've got to use a passive. Well, the only Warlord who has a constant effective passive is Duquesne. Now, granted, losing access to his frontline trigger is a little depressing, so I just kind of run with your general Iron Hand stuff and hope that holds the ground, and does the job, and hopefully somewhere along the way the opponent will catch on if they haven't seen the signal. And I'll go into that in just a minute here, that I'm doing a challenge. So there's that. Then there is the one where it is deploy X amount of troops with X amount of troops that cost 2 or less. Generally, I do Ferrus Manus. Why? Because there are a lot of cheap troops, and Ferrus Manus has a way to kind of benefit from them and make them somewhat doable in the event that you're facing a bot or somebody who's just not catching on, and you want to at least kind of get as many cards out as possible. Nurglings is another great challenge card. They work for a couple decks outside of challenges, but they have a backlash ability, so they work for your backlash. They return to your hand, which lets you play them again, and they only cost 1 energy. So for challenges that require you to play multiple troops, or multiple troops in a game, or troops with a cost 2 or less, again, just like Mandragorax, they cover all 3 of those avenues. They're a good card to have for challenges. So if you're finding those are something that you just, how do you make that work? Consider adding Nurglings to your deck, or picking up Nurglings and putting them in there. Again, this is a challenge version of the Ferrus Manus. This is not normally how I would run Ferrus Manus, but it's just whenever I've got that challenge, I bust out this guy, and usually I can get it in 1 or 2 games. 1 game, especially if the opponent has some patience with me and they realize that I'm doing a challenge. One more that I do, and this is just really basic, but I run Loken with backlash troops, and this is just every backlash troop through the, and you know, you could do Death Guard, you could do Death Guard, you could do like Mechanicum, or I just run Loken because it's base, and it kind of sends off a signal, and then in addition to that, just the stuff that you're throwing down, everything having backlash, sends out something. I've got some tactics in there, obviously, because as I said, when you build it, you have to take into account that you might have to play against a bot. And if that's the case, you want the game to at least drag out long enough to do whatever it is that you're trying to do. I think I've got Typhon for play troops with frontline, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so Typhon's got play troops with frontline. It just kind of works. He can just heal and play troops, and use the troops to do whatever needs to be done, whether that's kill themselves or hold the ground. There are just a lot. It depends on the challenge, and it depends on the warlord. Another good card I would say that I probably use for challenges outside of the Lactitio, outside of Nurglings, and specific warlords. Gosh, I would probably say Farron's Militia, just because it's a low cost that can respawn for a couple different challenges in terms of playing X amount of troops. And then also the troop that lets you heal, the Pi Alpha. Pi Alpha just lets you heal and remove stun, but it prolongs your health and lets you do whatever it is that you need to do. Now, when you're playing a game, I actually have to do my challenge here, which is use my Warlord ability a number of times in a single match. And this can be frustrating. This can be part of the problem, depending on what you're doing. For that particular ability, there's 2 warlords that I find work best. Garrow, he's lost 1 card, but he can still use his ability multiple times in a combat. And then the Conrad Kurz, because you can also use that. I think Kurz signals it a little bit better, plus I've been playing Kurz. So what I do here, I've got to do it 20 times in a single match. I don't have to win the game, I just have to use the ability. So you go into practice. Again, challenges only work in practice, events, and ladder. They don't work in private duels, or whatever the case may be. Hope I play a player who is somewhat familiar with the challenge, or the challenge greeting. And what I do is, I'm not going to need any of these, really. At the start of the match, as a player, what you do is you pick an emote, and most people do the greetings. I tend to choose something other than the greetings, for the simple fact that I want them to realize that I'm not saying hello necessarily. I'm saying something else, but you repeat that same phrase 3 times, and you hope that they catch on. Now, Kurz, I'm going to use that ability once. I'm not going to attack, and I hope that also sends a signal. That's just the best way you can do. You're kind of playing psychologically. I'm just going to use my ability, and I'm not going to attack. And I just hope that that's 2. I've used it twice now. And then you just kind of count down in the course of your head. Relatively quickly, you can kind of tell if your opponent is going to catch on or not. So we'll see here. He might have a challenge himself. He might not. If he's not, then it gets frustrating because then you have to go through the whole rigmarole and play out the game all over again and kind of do the same thing. And this is one thing that I think in terms of spreading awareness, I want people to, if you know this, take it to your lodge. If there are people in your lodge who don't know, see, obviously this guy is completely unfamiliar with the challenge because he's not recognized it. He's not sent an emote. He probably thinks that he's just kicking ass and he's wondering if I'm playing around with him. I don't think there's a challenge that he's doing necessarily that ties in with what he's played. There's nothing to show that there's a challenge there. Some challenges you have to win, so I understand that. But when somebody else lets you know that they're doing a challenge, you kind of, the proper protocol or the best, the good manners is just to say, hey, I'm doing a challenge too. So if your lodge mates don't know already, please pass the word along, spread it along, use that greeting. That was something that was established and discussed in the Discord chat when the challenges were first introduced, in terms of how people thought would be the best way to signal it to their opponent to make it easier, because some of these challenges are difficult. Some of them require very specific things, and the ones where you have to win the game, nobody really just wants to give up a loss unless they know what it is that you're working for. Now, if I knew this player was on Discord, what I could also do is I could go into Discord, ping him there, and let him know, hey, I'm doing this challenge and this is what I'm doing, and hopefully they catch that message in time, and then they're also able to assist. So again, another use for Discord. But I think what's going to happen here is this guy's going to think that he's winning the game. I don't know who this player is, so I have no way to contact him or reach him. After this game, we'll find out if he's part of a lodge that should be familiar with this or not, and then just kind of spread the word along. This is actually, like I said, challenges have been around for several months now. This shouldn't be news for anybody. But, yeah, see, I don't know if he's just thinking he's playing around, or at this point, he's just savoring it. I don't know if I don't think I've come close to the 20 yet. So if I lose on this next turn, I'm going to be pissed. Because it's just bad sportsmanship. It's not recognizing it. If you're not aware, that's one thing. But if you are and you've not signaled it, that's something else also. Part of the community, part of the game is to kind of recognize, okay, how as players can we help each other out, because that's all we've got. So let's see. So this guy did not get it. Probably thought that I must have just been drawing crap or something. I don't recognize the lodge either. And how many did I get? Nope. 4 shy. That would have been the next turn. So it's a frustrating thing. We'll do it again. And there have been times, I think the other night, I went through 3 players. Now, it's one thing if it's bots, that they're not aware, that they don't know what's going on. But when you're facing a player who, and some of them were from decent lodges or top 15 lodges, they should know better. And that's not always on them, but if you have a lodge that's actively connected into the community, those players should be talking. You should be spreading the word. Even if it's in practice mode, it's still a friendly environment. It should still be a friendly environment. Now, this is going to be rough. I've got to deal with this, whether I want to or not, because that relentless is going to ping me all game long. So here's what I'm going to do, because I forgot to do this right at the start. And we'll hope he catches on. Now, it's possible here that he might have to do Relentless Troops. And like I said, in which case it's very unfortunate for me if that's how he's starting out the game. That'll give me 20 turns. So, I mean, I could technically make it and meet my goal here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 times. And it's just a matter of knowing the code, sending the code, explaining it. Sometimes there's been a couple times where I haven't caught it early on. Haven't sent the message, and at that point you're kind of knee deep into it, and you just kind of have to eat it. But like I said, the other night, I think I went through 3 or 4 people who didn't acknowledge it, didn't do anything about it. It didn't seem to, register, and they're thinking that they are just, whooping butt, apparently, and you're just trying to play cards at that point. Now, depending on the challenge, too, you could have a challenge where we have to play troops. So what do if your challenge is to play troops and you've signaled to your opponent that you're doing a challenge without attacking them, without seeming aggressive? Well, you just put your troops down, and then hopefully they put troops down that you can throw your troops at. It gets a little bit difficult with the deploy cost 8 troops because they're so beefy in terms of their attack and their health. So that gets a little bit trickier, and in those cases, usually, thankfully, the goal is lower. But in those cases, sometimes what I'll end up doing is I can use Duke Morticher to kind of return one to my hand. It takes a little bit longer, but I pull one up, put one down on the next turn. Pull one up, put one down on the next turn. So that's how I go about that. Just spreading Curse love all over the place. And I think we're going to be able to hit 20 on this time around here. Now, sometimes when I know that I've only got so many more to go, and then I can signal it, either depending on where the game is at currently, just from the nature of what's been played, you end it up, or you just throw everything you have at one specific troop, kind of throw yourself on the sword necessarily to kind of draw the attention that, okay, I'm done here. It's really, without the actual in-game chat and just using the emotes, it's a little foreign to do. But if you're aware of it, if you kind of can understand as a player, you're doing a challenge, you have challenges, everybody's got them. If you can understand that, you should be able to respect and understand what it is that your opponent is doing, and to kind of work together, and hope that down the road, even sometimes you'll have the same game, you have 2 people doing challenges together, and then if they've got enough patience, they'll sit around and help you reach yours, and you help them reach theirs, and it's a mutual thing, and both players walk away with their daily challenge met. If you don't, then you've wasted, a couple of minutes trying to show somebody that you are not trying to win the game. You're just trying to do a specific thing. And I think you always have those players who just aren't either going to get it or aren't going to care. Maybe that guy who was in practice was just looking for a free win. He was going to get it. I was going to give him the win regardless. Thanks for helping me. I got what I needed, and I'm done, type of thing. So I think we've just about hit 20. I haven't been counting. I've been talking. But I think we've just about hit 20. So I'm just going to go ahead and count that. Kind of give my little note there. I'm done, and he can end my turn. He can end the game faster. I don't resign. I think I don't know. I mean, you've done your part. You've gotten what you want. They get a win out of it. But for some satisfaction for him, or if they're doing a challenge, sometimes it's nice for them just to be able to feel like they got to play some cards. That's how many times are you going to see this many iron hands on table with this high health? Sometimes you'll see it actually quite a few times, but just the same. And I think I'm going to do it a couple more times just for good measure, because I would hate to have it down and then back out before it was over. One more, because I think last time I was at 10 and I hit. Did I hit? I was 4 shy. Yeah. So that's what challenges are. That's if you're not familiar with it, hopefully this has educated you. If you are familiar with it, make sure that the other players in your lodge are familiar with it as well. So I think he's caught on. He's aware of what's going on. He can end it, or he's going to let me end it. One of the two. We've done our job. And next time I see Dread Spectre, I'll give him a thumbs up. Thanks for the assist, buddy. Prodigal Sons. So Prodigal Sons is a known lodge. They're up there. They should be familiar, and he is. And he assisted me. And 39, well far and above and beyond. Those last 3 turns probably were not necessary, but did what they did. I appreciate it, buddy. So that's challenges. And you might ask yourself, well, is it worth going through all that? Sometimes, well, you can kind of do them sometimes hand in hand with your daily missions. That's totally possible. But you don't want to pass up the free crate, especially if you're a newer player, or you're, I don't want to say new, but if you're growing your collection still. Yeah, it's got cards in it that you might need. It's got gold in it that you're gonna need. It's free is free, whether you get the 3 level or the 1 level. You want to try to go for it. Spend that little bit of time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes through the day. You've got 24 hours to hit it. I don't think there's any penalty to not, or any reason not to. So just spread the word, and the more people who know, the more lodges that know, ideally in time, will make it really easy. And then maybe, every go will have to come up with challenging challenges, or some degree of challenges that can only be done in a certain mode, which makes it even harder. God, I would hate to play event challenges. I love events, but those are already cutthroat as is. To throw challenges into that would be rough. So that's it. That's your little intro into challenges. There's some little tips in terms of some cards to make it work, that are beneficial depending on the challenge themselves, and then just some protocols or some kind of ideas to keep in mind. Some good manners, some player communication, and mutual respect, and hopefully build the community up. And if you haven't had any problems with challenges, I don't think this is anything new for you. But if you were wondering how best to go about them, or you're struggling, hopefully this helped you out. And if you found it useful, or if you think there's somebody that you know that would find it useful, please let them know. Forward it along. If you haven't already, please like or subscribe if you've liked what I've been putting out. I'm going to keep putting out videos. We're 32 hours away from Space Wolves, and I'm pumped. I'm not going to be doing a crate opening for Legion crates, but I am going to be doing a card by card, and definitely doing some event plays, because I want to get some Space Wolf cards. I want to play with the Space Wolf cards. I'm stoked. So it's going to be a good time. It's going to be a busy weekend. Gosh. I don't know if I'm ready for it. I have to be ready for it. So that's it. Thanks for tuning in, and catch me next time. Keep playing Legions. All right, bye.